The story begins with the fact that a girl is hit by a car that did not stop at a traffic light. It led to her death. We see the very moment when she realized that she is at a great speed is moving car, at that hour, and it seemed that the end has come. The girl thought so until a certain point. Then our story moves to another place, a young man lying on a bed with two girls, half naked and lying with him in his arms. The young lad asks Lady Rosaria, with a decidedly displeased tone, if she now has the nerve to barge into his bedroom. Rosaria looks at him and thinks what kind of beauty he is, although then corrects herself and thinks that he is not a beauty but a handsome man. She almost confused him with a girl. The guy and his mistresses are smiling. They are obviously happy. The protagonist looks around and begins to wonder if this is what life after death really looks like. She thinks it's too vulgar, but the guy interrupts her thoughts and asks if she thinks she's overstepped her bounds with her obsession. He doesn't understand how a future crown princess, who is a role model for the rest of us, could fall to this. He emphasizes that it's amazing. Rosaria looks at the lying guy who told her all this, and does not understand who he is and what he's talking about. And on top of that, he also called her a strange name. The girl begins to wonder what's going on, and stares at him and his girls and try to understand at least something. She feels a sharp pain in her fist, but cannot understand why she clenched her fist to such an extent that she began to feel pain. For her, it all looks strange, dear friends. And if you want to see the continuation of this magic or others, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell to not miss new videos, and do not forget to give a like to this video. And if you want to read this manga yourself, then be sure to watch the video to the end, because there will be a title. She looks at her hand and sees that she has wounds in her palm. She clenches her fist to the point where her nails pierce the flesh. The guy asks her if she will continue to stand there. Finally, the girl realizes that she must have interrupted him. She realizes that before she entered this room, this young man was having fun with these girls. She realizes she has to leave. Realizes this. She decides to turn around and just leave. The young man lying on the bed behind her says that if she runs away, she should at least do it right. He tells her that he forgives her for the last time and tells her to remember it, and he calls her his fiancée. Hearing this, the girl wonders in her head what is going on. She's wondering who he called the bride. She's trying to figure out if he's talking about her or one of those two girls, but the guy's still lying there nonchalantly, still entertaining himself with those two girls. Suddenly, at one point, they all start laughing loudly, and the guy says that he didn't realize that she wanted to do that. He tells the girl that she can join them too. Apparently, he was whispered to by those two young girls, but he adds that before his fiancée joins them, she has to remember to kiss his feet. Suddenly, the girl got angry at his words. She turned to him and walked over to the bed where they were lying. The guy is still acting like a total dummy. He still looks at her with a smile and says that he didn't think she wanted to be with him so badly. His girlfriends are also looking and laughing at Rosaria. All that sees the girl even more nervous and angry. Elena tells the guy to shut his mouth. Then suddenly the protagonist with all her might hits the guy in the face. You can see that he himself did not expect such a sharp turn of events. Girls who were in bed with the guy immediately panicking run away, and the guy does not understand what the hell is going on. He is shocked by such an act on the part of his fiancée. Apparently, the girl before that did not offer any resistance to him. However, the still enraged protagonist says that she will refuse such a favor and shows her fiancé the middle finger, then sends him to hell, calling him a lustful scum. Negative emotions overwhelm her heart. She is very angry. Further action is transferred to the mansion of Duke Rosaria. We learn that, summarizing the situation, the girl had a good piss on the heir to the throne, but fortunately, all her actions remained without consequences. We see a beautiful and very large mansion. Next, the protagonist is walking through her mansion. She sees two servants and tells them to stop immediately. The frightened servants ask her what's wrong, but she only wonders where her father is now. Next, we are destined to find out why, just by looking and talking to the servants, they are so much alarmed by the conversation with the girl. It turns out that all this is because her father, the most powerful man in the country, and she is his only daughter. The maids answer her question about where her father is. They say that his lordship is now in his office. The girl goes to him. The maids seeing this are a little shocked. They remind the girl that she has to go to the second floor and the stairs are to her left. We realize that she still hasn't adapted to her afterlife. She turns to the maids and thanks them for the clue. They are very frightened by it. In the eyes of the maids can be seen horror. They are so much frightened by what they answered Rosaria that they even fall to the ground. We also learn that the girl has not the best reputation, since she was in this body was exactly a week, and now she at least learned to walk properly. And then it was all hell for her. Her mother cried every day. Before she even realized why she was in this place, she realized that her new life could be taken away by her own father. It was only after she was locked in a room under the pretext of thinking about her behavior that she realized what she was in, and that things were not as rosy as they might have seemed to her at first glance. First of all, the country she lives in is called Kartika. It is the largest empire on the continent, and its history stretches back almost 1,000 years. The second but equally important fact that we learn about this world is that the Duke of Rosaria's family is one of those that were at the origins of this country. From him came the most outstanding swordsman of the empire. And lastly, we are told about what concerns this body. It turns out it belongs to the only daughter and fiancée of the crown prince, whose name is Elena Rosaria. And besides, all this world is a fictional world of one novel. The girl realizes that she is very unlucky to be in this body. She tells us that Elena Rosaria is a character in a novel called The Lady with the White Rose, which the girl read on the advice of a friend from a past life. Not for nothing. Everything seemed so familiar to her. This was the second time she had seen this story. The main character, Rosetta, is the lady with the white rose. She meets the protagonist, who is the crown prince in the novel. This story was about overcoming adversity and great love. But all the misfortunes of the lovers in the novel happened because of her. She is the main villain of this world. She realizes that if you think of all the atrocities that the mistress of the body caused the heroine, it becomes even more obvious. We learn that the owner of the body poured wine and ruined the dress of the protagonist, periodically beat her, and even once poisoned, truth be told that the protagonist then survived. But the girl realizes that because of this, Prince will blow her head off. However, the girl realizes that judging by the fact that he does not care about his appearance, the protagonist has not yet appeared, which means that the time when Rosaria became a real villain has not yet come. She is very happy about this fact, and says that now she knows exactly what she needs to do. The girl finally reaches her father's office. She realizes that first she has to survive in this world. She goes to her father and says she has something to tell him. The girl tells him that she would like to break off her engagement to the crown prince. She thinks that in order to survive, she has to get out of the love triangle first. Her father seems very angry at her daughter's decision. He reminds her that she first blew his brains out with this engagement, and now just so decided to cancel it. He asks his daughter if she has lost her fear, because agreements with the imperial family is not so easy to break. After listening to her father, the girl thinks about the fact that she did not expect that everything will be easy. She understands what the Duke is talking about, and there is no need to hurry. Now it is more important what she will say next, because high rank, power, and great wealth, this is something that she could not dream of in a previous life. The girl replies to her father that it seems that she was too hasty in her decision. The father forgives the gay man for this, and says that he will just forget about the incident, because his daughter always behaves like this. He tells her that she can leave, but the girl gets another idea. Before the Duke, she asks to make herself, her only daughter, her heir. She realized that in order to enjoy all that she has, she must appropriate it all for herself. The Duke was very angry at such insolence, and threw his daughter out of the office. The next day she tried to approach again to his office, but at the door were already guarded by 2 swordsmen, and the maids immediately began to take the girl away. It turned out that the next day, the father forbade his daughter to enter his office, and even to approach it. Standing next to the table, the girl looks at the ceiling and thinks, is it so hard for her father to share a little with her? She really wants to become an heiress. Now the most important thing is to inherit the duchy. Otherwise, even after breaking the engagement, she will have to become someone's wife. And that means that she will not have any freedom. And this she would not like very much. She hoped that he would agree to make her only daughter the heir, but it wasn't to be. She recalls her father telling her that being a duchess was a big responsibility, not just a ball game. He threatened her that one mistake, and she'd be finished. Still sitting at the table, she realizes that her own father can take her head even before the prince. She realizes that the duke is unlikely to agree to this, unless they are completely awake, because although she is not the real Elena, but along with her body she got her terrible reputation. The girl realizes that she was too hasty in her actions, but then it hit her. She realizes that she needs to think it over, and then she realizes that in the near future she is definitely not going to marry the prince. She remembers that the main characters of the novel met when it was snowy winter outside the window. The girl looks outside and sees that it's spring, which means she has plenty of time to become heir to the duchy she lives in and break her engagement to the prince before winter. Sitting in her room, she decides that this is the plan she will follow. Suddenly, a knock is heard on the door. She tells the person behind the door that he can come in, but when the door opens, she is surprised to realize that it is her mother. She tells her mother that her visit was a surprise to her because she did not even warn her. We learn that the Duchess is called Elizabeth. She is the mother of the protagonist, sitting at the table with a cup in her hands. The girl asks her mother what brought her to her. Her mother looks rather frightened and does not know what to answer. The girl is trying to understand what she is afraid of, and then it comes to her. She tells her mother that she will no longer knock over a cup of tea. As her mother calms down and looks surprised at her, it turns out that the protagonist said something randomly. She is surprised that before that the girl who controlled her body did such a thing. The mother tells the girl that there are rumors that the girl comes to her father every day. She decides to ask why she does it. On her question, the mother gets the answer that the girl wants to give up the engagement with the prince because of that incident at the beginning of the story. The mother is very much surprised by this answer. She did not expect that her daughter wants to give up the engagement. But the girl adds that this is not all. She adds that she still wants to become the heiress of the family. The girl's mother is so much surprised by what she just said that she can't utter a word. And as if she even stuttered, the girl didn't think it would be such a big surprise for the Duchess. The mother asks the girl why she decided to give up the engagement with the prince. The girl doesn't give any reasoned answer, saying that it's just her decision. The main character notices that her mother is shaking with fear, but still wants to listen to her daughter. She decides that she will try to talk her down. She says that she doesn't fully understand why she was so obsessed with the crown prince, and she keeps thinking about that mitzvah when she is alone in the room. A sad mother asks her daughter what she thinks about it, to which she gets a very sharp answer. The girl says that in her opinion the crown prince is real trash. After all this, the girl adds that she was blind all this time. She does not realize that he cannot even be called a man, because how can you behave like this in front of his own fiancée? She is so much furious at the behavior of the crown prince that in her opinion he is just a scumbag, a pile of rot on which even flies will not sit. Watching all this, mother just shocked. But the daughter adds that she does not understand how he could become heir to the throne because he will only ruin the empire. When she tries to say that the prince is not only senile but something worse, her mother covers her mouth with her hands and tells her to watch her words. She is very scared, and the girl realizes that she is too much worried. After the protagonist has calmed down a bit, she says that she can break off the engagement not right now, but she definitely does not want to become the crown prince's wife. She takes her mother's hand and says that from the bottom of her heart, she wants to follow in her father's footsteps. She tells her mother that she would like to help their family and get into all the affairs. The mother almost cries, listening to her daughter. But she still insists that she does not want to disgrace the family and wants to deal with her father's affairs. Her mother is happy after hearing all this and says that her daughter has changed a lot. She says that she will believe her daughter, but she has to promise her something in return. The main character looks very happy because she managed to convince her mother that she should break the engagement. Although she knows that everything she said before was really sincere, she says that she can promise her mother anything. The Duchess tells her daughter to promise her that she should never give up whatever happens, and no more throwing away books even if you don't understand them, no more burning them, no more throwing shoes while learning to dance even if her feet hurt. and she also asks her daughter to promise her that she won't call her mentor names. Looking at all of this, the protagonist agrees, because she wasn't going to do anything like that. Obviously, all of the above was done by her predecessor in this body. And finally, the mother asks her to promise her that she won't send her out of her room again. The joyful girl takes her hands and says she promises it won't happen again. She asks her to trust her. After the Duchess, who believed in the changed character of the girl, went straight to her husband's study, it seems she was able to persuade him after all, at least to wait a little, and because of her father's hard character. But the unexpected happened. The girl is notified that today she will begin to pass the lectures of preparation of the heiress. She did not expect that everything will happen so quickly, but she is definitely happy about it. After all, so long it has been achieved. The girl is interested in training to be an heiress. She is passionately studying lessons in the history of the empire, ballroom dancing, and even fencing. In fencing, she has some successes. The guys who have been watching her fencing are amazed at the girl's skills and look at her admiringly while clapping their hands. The girl is surprised by this. She looks towards the guys, not understanding why they are clapping. One of the guys praises the girl and says that she is a real genius. She has the talent of a swordmaster. He assures her that it is true. The girl is a bit confused, but the guy keeps talking. He mentions that she was born to do swordsmanship. He noticed it when he first met her. He says she's taller than her peers, a little weak, but she's got his lordship's muscles of steel. Apparently, he's talking about the Duke. But the girl is going somewhere. The guy tries to stop her and asks where she's going. The girl turns around and says she doesn't like the heat and constant training, so she doesn't plan to become a swordmaster. She also tells him that she has other things to do and she has to go. She also praises the guy in return, saying that he did a good job. We learn that his name is Diol. Sir Diol shouts to the heiress that if she suddenly changes her mind, she can come to them any time. After all, they will always be waiting for her here. Initially, she thought that after her mother's help, her plan went smoothly. It turned out that during their first family dinner, she almost had a fight with her father. He told Elena to take the sword and fight him. Then her mom took the sword in her hands, and the girl did not know if her mom was serious, because how could she ever defeat her father a little more, and she would definitely go to the other world for the second time. But then it became clear to her that the most influential person in the family is not her father, but her mother. The Duchess asks Elena if she has come now after training. The girl answers her mother that it is indeed so, but she tells Elena to call her mommy. She asks her daughter to say the word mommy, and after she does, the Duchess seems to burst with happiness, praising her and saying she's a good girl, and Elena looks very happy. Suddenly, someone knocks on Duke's door. It turns out to be Wulstan Duke, the second son of Earl Duke, the successor to the position of tutor of the imperial families. He is the current tutor Elena, standing in front of Duke. This young man gets questioned about Duke's daughter's behavior. He replies that Elena has been on her usual excellent behavior. She could get through the material much faster than he expected. At the next class, she will go over a list of things the heir should know. The Duke is nonchalantly reflecting on what he has heard and writing something. Seeing this, the lad asks for permission to say a few words after he has received it. He says he does not know exactly how high the expectations are for my lady, but he thinks she will be a perfect heir to the ducal family. The Duke himself says that this is too generous an estimate for a maiden who has just finished learning the basics. But the guy continues to convince the Duke. He says that the girl has an amazing speed of perception of the material, as well as understanding how to put it into practice. Sometimes, she says things that even he does not always understand, with his knowledge. But that's not all he appreciates most of all the efforts of the girl. The Duke's face shows that he obviously did not expect such insistence from a young boy. And besides, Wulstan asked the Duke not to ignore her ability as well. After hearing all this, the Duke looks at the boy carefully and thinks about everything he heard. Further action is transferred to the palace. There is a servant standing by the bed of some guy. He addresses him as if this guy is a member of the imperial family. As soon as the guy woke up, the servant was very surprised, and we learned that his name is Prince Lloyd. The prince has a very bad headache for some reason. It is bandaged. The prince stands up coughing. but the servant tells him not to make any sudden movements. The prince turns sharply to the servant and asks who he is, and what is this place where he is. The servant, not understanding anything, asks what he is talking about. He asks the prince in surprise. Doesn't he remember him? He's an old acquaintance of his, Dane. The prince looks at him puzzled and realizes he needs to think about what happened before. He remembers exactly how he was celebrating with his brother in his room and how they were drinking wine. Suddenly he notices his long bangs and is surprised that his hair is so long. He tries to understand how long he was unconscious. Looking at the servant, he orders Dane to bring him a mirror right away. The guy immediately obediently decides to do the task and says to wait a little bit. He brings the prince a mirror. Then he looks into it and is very much surprised that it is him. He is surprised that he is the emperor's son, and looking at his servant asks his name. He introduces himself to the prince and reminds him that his name is Dane. He asks if the prince has really forgotten his name. The guy looks at his servant and says that he really doesn't remember anything, because judging by his wounds, he has a bad head injury. So he asks the servant to explain what happened to him. Dane tells him that he had a little conflict with his younger brother, His Majesty the Crown Prince, and then he fell down the stairs and ended up in this condition. The guy suggests that maybe if the imperial doctor would have been more active in treating the prince, his memory wouldn't have been so badly affected. The guy realizes that although he is the eldest son, but he is not the heir. Apparently, he was not a good man. Dane, crying, says something there, but the prince, as if he does not even hear him and does not pay any attention to it. The action again moves to the duke's house, where the duke, dressed in weekend clothes, suddenly calls his daughter. She is very much surprised and wonders what happened because her father never addressed her first. She turns around and approaches him with a question, "What happened?" But the father says nothing but that she should clean herself up. After that, father informs her that she will go to the castle. We can understand from the girl's face that she is very much surprised by it, because she didn't expect anything like that. The surprised girl asks what her father is talking about and why she should go to the castle now, but he looks at his daughter and tells her that she is the future heir to the duchy and must present herself to the emperor. His statement surprised even the girl's mother, who also did not expect it. But her father looks unshakable in his decision. The mother takes the girl's hands and tells her that it has finally happened. At first, the girl is surprised at her father's abrupt decision, but then, together with her mother, they both rejoice at the news. Some time has passed, and the father and daughter have arrived at the imperial castle. They stand before the emperor, whose name is Rorian Kartika. They say they are very happy to welcome His Majesty the Great Emperor. This man is the current ruler of the Kartika Empire. Apparently, the emperor is on very good terms with the duke. The latter laughs off this greeting and asks how he's doing, also saying to relax, because they don't need these greetings. Standing with her head down in front of the emperor, the girl is very surprised by his behavior. She is amazed at what a lively character the emperor has. She realizes that his character is not at all like a prince, but the emperor asks to explain his friend Duke why he came to him with his daughter. But the duke, still unshaken, who even in front of the emperor does not change his expression, says that the fact is that they have already chosen and wanted to present the heir to the duchy. The emperor is very surprised by this, and says that at last it has happened. Apparently he has been waiting for this event for a long time. But suddenly the laughing emperor asks the duke not to say that this heir will be his daughter, to which the duke says that the emperor has understood. All right. The duke announces his decision, which is that the heir to the duchy will be his daughter, Helena Rosaria. Helena herself looks very happy about this event, unlike the emperor, who is very surprised by the decision of the Herzog. The emperor almost starts stuttering in front of the duke. He asks him if he understood correctly that the duke wants to give up this country. But the duke answers that it is not so. But the emperor looks at the girl and asks Helena, maybe she wants to visit her fiancé. After all, they have not seen each other for so long. The girl agrees to this, but we learn that she even became a little pleased with the emperor stuttering when he heard the decision. It was immediately clear to her what exactly the emperor would say after escorting her. He once again advised her to think carefully about the heir to the throne. But even the emperor can't change anything in the matter of the heirs to the Knati, which is the duke. Elena realizes that her father will not change his decision, if he has already made it, at least not until her mother intervenes. So she realizes that now is the time to solve the issue of her dump with the prince. Walking around the castle, the girl meets one of the maids and tells her to stop. The maid is very frightened by this, but comes up to the girl and asks her why she called her. But Elena is just wondering, where is the palace of the crown prince, to which she is now on her way to check on him on the advice of the emperor. The maid shows the way to the girl, saying that she can go straight on this road, and then will get to the prince. The girl is very much surprised by this, although it is not clear why. And the maid in turn is very much frightened, and says that it is the truth, she did not lie about the location of the prince's chambers. The girl turns back, and then we find out what she was so surprised about. It turns out that she was disturbed that she almost came to the chambers of the scum herself. She thinks it's a nightmare. All the while, the surprised maid who stands behind her stands puzzled. At that moment, she did not realize that trying to avoid the crown prince and she will meet another. Then the girl decided that she better get as far away from the palace, and coming to a strange place she does not understand where she is. She looks around, realizes that it does not look like the imperial garden, because it is too small and unremarkable. However, looking at the local plants, she realizes that it is immediately obvious that he is well taken care of, because there is not the slightest flaw. Suddenly appears behind some man. The girl hears the sounds and tries to understand who is here. She turns around and sees a young man there. He looks at her and asks her how she dared to come here without his permission. She looks at him more closely and notices his cold blue eyes and immediately guesses who the young man is. She bows her head before him and says she is very glad to see him. She calls him the first prince. It is the same guy who was lying with his head bandaged before. The guy looks at her thoughtfully and does not answer anything, which surprises the girl very much. She decides to introduce herself to the guy further. She says she is the daughter of Duke Rosaria, and her name is Elena. She is surprised that he didn't recognize her, though she realizes she can count on her fingers how many times the weak first principal has appeared at banquets she has attended before. Suddenly, the first prince pretends to recognize the girl and apologizes to her, saying that at first he didn't even understand who she was, but the girl says that there is nothing wrong with it and he shouldn't apologize to her. She remarks that he should not apologize, for it was she who entered the garden without asking and unwittingly interfered with him. The boy agrees to what the girl said, which she is very much surprised, for she did not expect such a harsh answer. The first prince says that if she was looking for the crown prince's palace, it's in the other direction. Elena tells him that she hasn't been here for a long time, which is why she got lost by accident. She praises the prince's garden, saying that it was so beautiful that she admired it. The girl looks around once more and asks the first prince if this garden has been designed according to his personal preferences. But the guy also looks around and says it must be so. The girl looks at him with incomprehension. But the first prince continues to talk. He asks the girl, maybe she wants to have a cup of tea with him, because maybe this meeting was not accidental. The girl is very surprised by his proposal and thinks that something is wrong here. She decides that she should refuse the offer, then thanks the first prince for the offer, but mentions that she has come with her father, and it is time for her to return. But the first prince says that there is nothing to apologize for, and they should definitely meet again in the future. Then he wishes her a good journey and leaves. Looking after the young man, she remembers that the first prince from the novel she read in her past life was a shy, quiet man who was constantly shouted at by the crown prince. It turns out that in the novel, he only spoke to the protagonist at the very end. But what surprises her is that now he behaves calmly, even dismissively, which is not like him at all. Still looking at the back of the first prince, she thinks about the fact that this man with the face of the first prince, who behaves very differently and tries to understand who he is, suddenly at this moment, the prince himself turns around and looks at the back of the girl. He tells his servant, whom he met recently, to get out of the bushes. He tells Dane that this girl doesn't really match his story and asks how it happened. Dane realizes that she doesn't really match his story and tells the first prince that she doesn't look like herself He tells the first prince that there were rumors that the duke's daughter had changed so much that she was a different person. He thinks all those rumors were true. The first prince is incredibly surprised by this and turns to his servant and asks what it means that she has become a different person. But he tries to put it mildly and tells the first principal that she first struck His Highness, and then the rumors spread. From what he says, it's as if the girl's been replaced. They say that after the incident, she's been studying to become heir to the duchy. And from what they saw today, Elena's really changed a lot. After Dane tells the first prince, he realizes that Elena's just like him. He is still thinking about his servant's words when he said that the girl was a different person. He finds this case very interesting. The action moves to the Duke's house, where one of the maids is very much surprised that Elena saw His Highness the first prince. But the girl, who is not at all worked up about it, says that it is indeed so. But the first prince does not look like the one she knew before. The maid is even more surprised by what she has heard, and asks Elena if she has understood correctly what she wants to say, that the first principal has come to its senses. Elena does not understand at all what her maid is talking about, and asks her the logical question that follows from it. But then the maid, realizing that the girl knows nothing, tells her that his architecture fell down the stairs during a quarrel with the crown prince, and after it happened he did not come to his senses for more than 2 weeks. She mentions that many thought he would never wake up again, but apparently the worst was avoided. The girl reflects on what she has heard. The girl thinks about all this. She realizes that this is a very strange incident, because at first the first prince could not wake up, but then suddenly he woke up and behaves like a completely different person. It hit her, and the first question she asked was whether she was right. Elena looks in the mirror while her maid is waiting for an answer, but the girl keeps thinking about what she heard. She doesn't understand what she's thinking about, because such a rare phenomenon couldn't happen twice in a row, but she realizes that it's impossible to completely rule out the possibility of this phenomenon. She decides that she needs to find out the details of the case. The same day, she has a 2-hour meeting with what she considers his subhuman crown prince. This is all because the emperor himself apparently wants to influence her to give up the place of the heir to the duke. But she realizes that the emperor will not succeed. On the same day, with the arrival of the crown prince to her, a huge number of gifts. All of them were brought here by order of the emperor himself. While in the same room with the crown prince over a cup of tea, she asks her butler how much time is left before she can leave the place. The butler brings up and shows her a watch, while the crown prince watches. But then the crown prince tells the girl that he didn't know she was so insatiable. Elena is very surprised by his words and doesn't understand what he's talking about and what he came up with this time. But the guy keeps talking, asking if it's not enough for her to just be near him, and then the girl realizes that this idiot is asking her about the duchy. He asks Elena if she thinks she's special and outstanding, or if she thinks she's his fiancée because she's around him. He tells her that none of this is true, and it's because of her lineage. Otherwise, there would be no engagement at all. Though the crown prince himself realizes why not seize the moment if the family is powerful, he tells her to just sit back and enjoy what's going on and not even think about shaking the empire with the news that she's the heir to the duchy. According to him, after the girl becomes his wife, she will be able to bathe in luxury and she will not have to do anything. She says that he is right, then he very much amazes the young man, drinking tea. She says that she is a rather greedy girl, so she will get everything she wants. She does not care whether it is a crown prince or a whole duchy. However, she herself realizes that a little too much. She thinks she's not good enough to hold 2 things at once, meaning the crown prince and the duchy, looking at her betrothed. She says she'll have to give up something. The crown prince looks at her and says that sometimes a girl can think straight, and for that she'll just have to try. Looking directly at the crown prince in a confident tone, the girl says that she will give up the engagement in favor of the duchy, and they should break it off. She asks the crown prince if he wants the same thing as she does. He is obviously a little surprised by this choice, because he expected her to choose him. At that moment, she realized that she probably should have talked about it later. But in her opinion, now was the right time. She hoped she could get him to break the engagement between them quietly. She realizes it's unlikely that the crown prince wants her as heir to the duchy, but she's sure he doesn't want her as crown princess anymore. The crown prince hears her verdict, is very much surprised by it, and asks her to repeat all the words she said earlier. The girl looks at him with incomprehension, but the crown prince becomes aggressive and asks what she just yelled. The girl went to her father because she is as steadfast as he is. She once again says that she would like to give up her engagement to the crown prince. In her opinion, everything went away because she was constantly hanging around the prince. So she reconsidered her attitude and decided to distance herself from him. She says the crown prince hates her. He's surprised by this statement and mentions that he can't believe she just said that. He doesn't ask the girl how she dared to say such a thing. He tells the girl that if she cares so much about his honor, she should give up her place as heiress instead of princess. The girl looking at him is genuinely surprised that this guy is talking about honor, but she is not lost and asks him a counter question. What about her honor then? She had seen enough on the first day to trample her dignity and pride. Saying all this in her mind, images of the crown prince having fun in his room at that time come to mind. She tells the prince that if he cares so much about it, he can blame her for breaking up the marriage. She's sure the guy will think of something to get away with it, and she can finally get her long-awaited freedom. Just she finished talking and the guy explodes with emotion. He looks furious, but the girl tells him that honestly, she doesn't quite understand why he's so angry. She wonders if His Highness hasn't despised her all this time. She had previously found that he would gladly accept, and it's only worth it to her to suggest it. But the guy who was so emotional yells at the girl what kind of treachery he's talking about. It's obvious that he's very excited about what's going on around him. Suddenly, the butler enters the room and informs that 2 hours have already passed, which were given to them for the conversation. Then the crown prince looks at his bride and says that he has to go, while the girl looks at him in bewilderment and says that actually they are not finished yet, so he should stay so that they agreed on these important points. But His Highness is adamant. He keeps on leaving. When the crown prince had already reached the door to leave the room, he stopped. The girl told him to just agree to break the engagement, and that's it. But the guy, still future on emotions, turns to her and says that time is up. He spent 2 hours with her by order of the emperor, and there is nothing more for him to do here. The girl is incredibly surprised by this and looks at him again, not understanding his act. She wonders how long ago he became so punctual. The crown prince continued on his way. He opened the door and walked out and slammed it loudly and defiantly. The girl still can't make sense of it. She doesn't fully understand what the crown prince's prank was all about. She sits back down where she was sitting before and is surprised that this imbecile just left without answering her question. It was not what she expected, because he showed that he hated the girl. He was against the engagement, and now he's doing this and cannot go to cancel it. At first, she thought that he would jump for joy if she gave up the place of princess. After all, it is much easier to force her to give up the post of heiress than to give up the place of the crown prince's wife. But as we could see, everything did not turn out quite as she expected. The girl is looking at the ceiling and trying to understand what's wrong with him, why the crown prince doesn't want to agree to cancel the engagement, and what kind of problems he has since he doesn't want to break their engagement with Elena. She thinks of something and can't believe it. We recognize 3 cliches of Korean doramas. In the first cliche, the girl hits the guy, they fight, and she says that if he gets in her face again, she will slap him on the other cheek. The young man looks at these actions in love and says that no one has ever done this to him before. In the second cliche, the girl looks at the guy with disdain and tells him she doesn't like arrogant types, and he softly touches her and says he likes cocky ones. In this type of cliche, the guy is ready to buy her for any money. And the third and final cliche is that the guy realizes his feelings when the girl says she hates him. In the illustration for the third cliche, we see the girl telling the guy to get out of here, and that she will never go out with him. And he looks at her and says he can't stop loving her ever. Only thinking about all this, the girl is very much worried. She hopes that nothing like this will happen, because she is even afraid to imagine it. Her whole situation is very much pissed off. The action moves to another time. A girl is having lessons with her teacher. Apparently, he asked her some question that she can't answer. Suddenly, the girl jumps up from her seat and says that it's not about that at all. When she realizes what she just did, she starts to apologize. I justify myself that it's not what her teacher would think. But the teacher just looks at her thoughtfully. The girl continues to justify you saying that she was just thinking about her own. Then immediately the teacher closes the book from which he taught the girl and says that no matter what the reasons for what happened, in any case, she is not in a condition to continue learning, and for today their lesson is over. The girl is very surprised, but immediately after the teacher leaves, she sighs hard, realizing that this is not a good end to the lesson. Apparently, the girl is thinking about the crown prince. She is very angry with him, because according to her, she has all the problems because he is in her head. A little later, a surprised girl looks at her maid, and is surprised that someone has invited her to the palace. She asks who did it, to which the maid holds out a letter to her, and says that she is invited to the palace by His Highness the First Prince. The girl is really surprised by this. She opens the letter sent from the prince, and realizes that he was not joking about the tea. She decides to read the letter carefully, but remembers the last time they talked to the first prince, how he said that she had nothing to apologize for, and they should definitely meet again in the future, and then he wished her a good journey. The girl finally receives the letter. She realizes that the first prince is really not like the prince she knew before. The letter says that he would like to invite my lady to the palace. The maid who was standing next to her is very surprised that the first prince sends letters to her mistress. She wonders if Elena is friends with His Highness the First Prince, to which the surprised Elena says she wouldn't say they are friends. She can't tear herself away from the letter, and looking at it all the same attentively, she reflects that she and the First Prince are not friends or even comrades, and it is very strange of him to invite the bride of a brother with whom he has bad relations. Further, we are presented a small description of the characters from the novel, which the girl read in real life. The main character of the novel is Kaizen Kartika, who is better known as the Crown Prince. He likes alcohol and women. In the future, the plot of the novel should change. The main character is Rosetta. She is as beautiful as the prince himself and very kind. And the secondary character is Lloyd Kartika, who is described in the novel as a quiet, insecure young man. The girl realizes that she remembers most of the nuances of this world, so it was possible not to write anything down, but she realizes that she might forget something, and the best thing to do is to keep the information on paper, even if it doesn't help. Let it be. Now she finally begins to understand the problem, because the details of the affair have changed. It turns out that until recently the changes only happened when she changed her behavior, but she still doesn't understand why the first prince has so abruptly become a different person. She suggests that maybe it has something to do with the incident that he was able to safely survive, or he has become like her. If her suspicion is reincarnation, then it's likely that he too could have noticed something strange about the girl the moment they met in his garden. The girl looks at the pen and thinks. Suddenly, she abruptly decides to write a letter to the first prince, because no matter how much you think, and the answer she cannot find, and just need to act to understand the principle has changed only because of the accident, or because of the fact that someone has entered him as well as she is in the body in which he now lives. After writing a letter to the first prince, she puts a stamp on it. She looks at the letter and decides to respond to his invitation first. It turns out that they ended up meeting only 2 days later. In the corridors of the house, Elena's mom is going somewhere. It turned out that she was going to her daughter. Happily opening the door to Elena's room, she asks her if she wants to have fun with her favorite mommy. Elena, who is preparing to leave for the palace, asks her mom to go into the room. All the girls look very happy. Her mother comes into the room and asks Elena if she is going somewhere, and the girl says she has to go to a place. Her mother is sad to hear this, because she brought cookies to eat with her daughter. Her face shows some disappointment that she is going somewhere. Her mother shows her daughter a basket of cookies, all of them shaped like bunnies. She tells Elena to just look at them, because these cookies look so much like her. Her mother's words make Elena laugh. It turns out that now her mother loved her so much, like she was the best daughter in the world, even though she was just a child to whom she couldn't show her love. Elena grabs one bunny cookie from the basket the Duchess came in with, and tells her that she will try not to be late, and then they will spend time together. When the Duchess hears about it, she looks very happy and elated. She says that if it's true, then she'll wait for her daughter. Looking at her mom, Elena realizes that to deal with the general she has to deal with his horse, It doesn't mean that her mom is a horse. But she noticed that after her persuasion, her dad almost stopped fighting with her. Not that she doesn't fight with her father anymore. He sometimes gets angry with her because of his bad temper, or just because. But in such moments, her mom always tries to protect her. Now she starts to feel that she really is her real mom. The Duchess asks Elena where she is going. The girl tells her mother that she is going to the Imperial Palace. But then the woman seems to be very frightened by what she heard. She began to stammer and asked where her daughter is going. Elena looks at her and does not understand what is happening to her, because the woman is frightened. And then finally Elena gets to Elena. Why her mother was so scared, she tells her mother that she misunderstood, and the girl is not going to the Crown Prince. But the woman cannot understand why she needs to go to the palace. An incredibly beautifully dressed girl, with very beautiful jewelry both on her clothes and on her body, tells her mother that she is going to meet the first prince. To say that her mother is surprised is not to say anything. The surprise is read on her face at once. Already after the action moved to the Imperial Palace, there the first principal meets Elena. He says that he is glad to see her and asks her to pass without shyness. Looking at the girl, he notices that today she is especially beautiful. As before this moment was noticed by us, the girl thanks the first prince for the compliment and declares that she is honored by him. But then the girl begins to think that everything is happening as expected. We learn that in fact she didn't just decide to dress up, but did it in order to see if the prince is real. She begins to think more and more confidently that it's someone else, and she has less and less doubts about it, because the prince she knew from the shock would simply fall off his feet. The prince thanks the girl for agreeing to come, but over a cup of tea she replies that it's a great honor for her, and she wouldn't refuse such a beautiful meeting. The first prince says she's a flatterer, but the girl doesn't understand what he expects from her, not rudeness, so she decides to see how their meeting will proceed. The first prince said that he had heard that she was the heir to the duchy. He asks the girl to accept his congratulations. He also asks the girl how it feels to be the heir. The girl thanks him for his congratulations and says that she doesn't even know about it. Now she just hopes that she won't cause problems for the empire and the family. The girl decides to drink some tea, and in passing thinks about the fact that everything has been reduced to a useless dialogue. It would be much easier if the prince would show his real self, but the guy tells her not to worry, because she will definitely help the empire. Then the girl realizes that he apparently is not going to show his real self yet, so she decides that it's her turn. Smiling with a mug of tea in her hands, she says that she has long wanted to say something to the first principal, but still could not decide. It turns out that the girl seems that the first prince has changed a lot compared to his past self. He smilingly looks at her and asks if it is true, but the girl says that he is nothing like the one she sometimes met before. They stand in front of each other. The first prince thinks about all this and asks the girl about which one before. She looks at the first prince and says that if he's so interested to know about it, she'll tell him everything. It turns out that they've seen each other before their previous meeting. The prince leans a little and says that it seems to be true. The girl looks at him and is surprised that he just says that, but the prince throws a twig at her. Despite directly at her, he says that he too has heard that she has become a different person. The girl realizes that the first prince is turning the tables. It makes her a little angry, realizing that she may lose this game chessmatov. She puts the mug back in its place and asks the prince how much he thinks she has changed. Obviously, he does not know anything from her past, tells her that girls know better. But for him, she is still the same. The girl specifies that at least she has become smarter. She is a little ashamed that they are now talking about such things. The guy laughs a little when he hears that she has become smarter, adding that it can be said about him, asks the girl if he is right in this, to which he gets a positive answer. Elena gets up and says she has to go. The first prince looks at her and wonders if it's time for her to leave, to which she says she has other things to do, and he doesn't have to see her off. Suddenly she remembers that she made something for the first prince. She says it's nothing special, but she hopes he'll like it. She claims that her maid baked it and asks her to believe herself that it's delicious. The first prince is a little surprised that the girl brought him cookies, but he says that he just wanted something to eat, and this is very nice of the girl. After she leaves, the smile immediately falls off his face. He doesn't realize what the gift is, a basket of cookies. But suddenly, when his friend Dane brings him the basket, he notices that there's a letter in there. The guy snatches it away. He starts to read what the girl wrote there. The servant looks at him and asks what happened, thinking that the lady wrote something offensive about him. But the guy laughs and says that it's hard for him to answer this question, because nothing is clear to him yet. He recalls an incident in which the previous owner of the body died, two brothers drinking wine that evening, after the younger brother, whom the first prince considered the closest person to him, killed him to gain power in the empire. He looks carefully at the letter and realizes that it has not yet been decided whether they will become allies. Although coming from a completely different world, he does not understand why she came, and extreme strange that she left quickly. The first prince doesn't know if it's courage or recklessness, but this girl is clearly unusual. Now we can also see what the letter says. And there the girl asked him who he was. The guy becomes curious to see what her intentions are, and whether Elena's existence will be an obstacle to his plan, or whether the girl will be a grace. The girl has already returned to her home. She sits at the table and thinks that since she gave the message to the first principal, it's been a few days. She thinks that maybe she should have written something else. A picture pops into her head of the first prince looking at what she wrote, and wondering what kind of language it was. She thought he would try to contact her right away, but apparently he was wrong. I've been thinking that it's only been a little over 3 days. Maybe she's in too much of a hurry, and maybe she should wait at least a month. But if he answers me after that, she thinks she's wrong, and she'll just leave it at that. Suddenly, one of the maids bursts into her room and says that she has a letter. The girl jumps up from the table and, being very excited, asks for the letter, asking who it is from. The maid who came to the girl with the letter asks her if she was expecting news from anyone. Elena opens the letter sent to her and is very surprised. The maid sees this and asks her if it is what she wanted so much, but the girl says it is not, but it is still good news. She is very happy about the letter. After she has read what the first prince has written to her, she orders her maid to fetch a quill and perfume, for she must write a reply as soon as possible. The action shifts back to a few days ago, when the girl decided to join one of the tea parties to see how things are in the high society. And she also realizes that new rumors may appear if she doesn't go anywhere. But at this tea party, it was a little different than she had imagined. Two girls were chatting about their lovemaking. One of them asks the other what she did afterwards, but the horny second girl replies that it was just a slit, obviously meaning a kiss. The girl looks at these two young people and realizes that they are acting like the usual high school girls. In her mind, she even has a picture of two high school girls going to karaoke after school. One of the girls at the table looks at Elena and asks her if there is anything she doesn't like. But Elena smilingly says that there is nothing wrong. On the contrary, she hasn't been to such meetings for a long time, and she is very happy to be here. Pleased that Elena is not worried about anything, the girl wonders if Elena will share something with them. Finally, the girl had a good moment to change the subject. Elena says that honestly she has long wanted to discuss the situation on the continent, or where the empire's policy is headed. She would be interested to hear the girls' thoughts on the matter, but Elena gives them a choice. She also suggests a second topic. Elena asks the girls if instead of the first topic they want to talk about the main events of this year, for example, the rebuilding of the territory affected by the famine last year. The girls are very surprised by this suggestion. But Elena continues to surprise, and adds that she has also been thinking about whether the tax laws should be relaxed a bit for the indigenous people. Looking at the girls, she invites them to give their ideas, if they have any. Seeing that her audience is completely uninterested in the topics she proposed, she realizes that she needs something else, and then she finds what she needs. She tells the girls that a new dessert store has opened in their area, and many of them say that it is very good. The girl's audience finally became more interested in her monologue. Seeing this, girl realizes that she needs to work on fixing her reputation first. She looks at the cute girl and wonders who she is, but the answer does not make you wait long, and the girl introduces herself. We learn that her name is Bella Chedargi. She heard that Elena became the heir to the duchy and congratulates her. Elena, looking at the girl, realizes that she looks like she is really happy for her. She wonders if the girl's emotions and words are true, but Bella looks at the girl with admiration, as if she has not lied anywhere at all about being happy for the girl. Elena realizes that it seems nice to hear congratulations not only from her family. She thanks Lady Chatterjee. She does look very happy. Indeed, no one from outside has ever congratulated her on such an occasion. Suddenly, the girls at the table stare dumbfounded at our protagonist. Apparently, they had not realized until now that she would be the heiress to her father's duchy. Everyone at the table immediately began to congratulate Elena, saying that they wanted to congratulate her too. The girl laughs a little, and thanking everyone for their kind words, she tells them that she really appreciates it. Suddenly, the girl expects another surprise. She is approached by another girl, who also says that she would like to congratulate her on this wonderful event. At the sight of a smiling girl, it is immediately clear that Elena is something insistent. She realizes who this girl is. Suddenly, some pictures pop up in her head, as if they were memories. But in fact, we know very well that this is what she read in the novel when she was alive in a past life. Elena remembers that Rosetta's face was distorted by a sharp blow. The very girl who came to congratulate her tells Rosetta to be quiet, and to be quiet for her own good, for she doesn't want anyone to come, and the slap that came on the girl's cheek silenced her. Her beautiful lips curved in a smile, but on her face she read a strong word. Rosetta begged for it not to happen again, but Helena looked at it all with a smile. Her red lips stretched into an arc at the sight of Rosetta. She took the girl by the face, trying to lift her head while telling her to look at her. It turns out that this girl who came up to congratulate her, inherited in the blood of the Marquis of Tennessee, was Helen's closest assistant. The girl returns to reality and looks at her congratulatress. The girl realizes that the congratulatress was her assistant only in the book. We learn the characteristics of this girl, according to Elena herself. She constantly looks down on everyone because she is a real predator. I think it is not necessary to say that everyone did her bidding, until they appeared Elena herself. The girl mentions that she would like to apologize to Elena for congratulating her just now. All the other girls at the table look at it in surprise. But the girl keeps talking. She also mentions that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and that's why she didn't dare to say it. And as our main character knows, she's a bit shy. The girl hopes that Elena will forgive her. Obviously. She says it rather ironically. Elena is looking at her and like she's rabbing her in her head. Especially she's laughing that the girl called herself shy. She realizes that it's the girl who decided to show up because all the attention has gone to Elena. She thinks that in a den without a tiger the rabbits rule, and she's just worried that Elena has stolen her place. Elena thinks that if she hopes to say that everything is fine, she should not expect it. Apparently from the outside, she looked cheerful. But for the lesson of this girl, she always has time. Happy to look at the daughter of the Marquis, the protagonist replies that of course she forgives her. The girl is obviously puzzled because she didn't expect such an answer. It sounded even a bit arrogant. But Elena continues to bend her line and emphasizes that she says that she forgives her for ignoring her and not approaching her earlier, while the protagonist looks quite annoyed by the presence of this girl. Lady Tennessee again did not expect such an answer. It was not what she wanted from Elena, but Elena continues to play the theater. She says that she was even a little upset, because recently their relationship was a little strained, because of this, and so did not want her to congratulate her first. But Lady Tennessee did not do anything because she did not dare to even approach her. Lady Tennessee is very surprised to hear this, as she has never seen Elena talk to anyone like that. Her face looks very angry at the protagonist's response. At the same time, Elena takes the hand of another girl and emphasizes that after hearing the congratulations from Lady Chadarga, she is relieved and glad she came here, and thanks the First Lady who congratulated her for that. Lady Chatterjee says she's very glad she was able to cheer Elena up and get her mind off things, a look of genuine delight on her face, while Lady Tennessee is watching annoyed at the whole thing, so much so that she's very angry that she's even clenched her fist. But she decides to add something else, and says that she is sorry for what happened, because she did not want to upset Elena. But Elena again, with a touch of irony, answers her that of course she believes in her words. But she realizes that she embarrassed the girl. She did it on purpose to make her understand whether she likes it, being in the place of another person whom she could just as much belittle in front of others. Lady Tennessee herself realizes that Elena did it on purpose. She mentally responds to the protagonist asking if she knows how long it took her to gain authority among the nobility. And if she thinks she's just going to take everything away from her, it's definitely not true. Then the girl decides to attack Elena in return, saying that she hasn't been to see her for a long time, so long that she even started to worry if anything had happened to her. She emphasizes that it's probably none of her business, but still wonders why the girl has been missing. Elena looks very puzzled by this question. But still, the protagonist is not lost, and understands that the meanness of this girl is boundless, because it is very mean to try to attack a person and pretend to be worried about him. After all, everyone already knows everything because of the rumors. Elena becomes interested in what she achieves, but still decides I'll play her a little bit. While Elena thought about it, Lady Tennessee as if already felt her victory and looked much more joyful and relaxed. The protagonist says that nothing special has happened to her, but she has decided to plunge into her studies to become the heir to her father's duchy. Lady Tennessee does not lose hope to humiliate the girl in front of everyone and asks her why she did not write anything, because she was very much worried about her, while noting that there were a lot of strange rumors about her while she was away. The other girls who are sitting at the table are very much surprised by the said words. They seem to understand each other with a look, but still think that the girl is not going to talk about these strange rumors right here, because it would be very low of her side. Lady Tennessee continues the conversation anyway, saying that she didn't believe the rumors, but when people started saying the young lady was crazy, it made her think. But Elena interrupts her story, asking if she's talking about it here on purpose. Lady Tennessee pretends to supposedly not understand what the girl is talking about. Well, Elena asks her anyway why spoil the other girls' tea party with such nonsense. But their verbal confrontation doesn't end there. Lady Tennessee looks at the main character and wonders if she's trying to mock her because she's afraid to attack her head-on. But Elena attacks her anyway, saying that maybe she's deliberately trying to ruin the tea party for everyone here. A question that catches Lady Tennessee off guard. She wonders if Elena is really trying to bring her down. Elena, realizing that she has already defeated her opponent, begins to speculate what Lady Tennessee will do, whether she will say that it is just a mistake or apologize, because whatever she did, her position among the nobility will not be the same. Suddenly, another girl who was also here intervenes in their conversation. She says that Lady Tennessee must have made a mistake, so she thinks that Lady Tennessee should apologize to Elena. The other girls at the table also completely take Elena's side. They also decided that this is too much, and the girl really should apologize. Obviously not the most appropriate topic for discussion at the tea party. In their opinion, Lady Tennessee behaved too tactless, and she should apologize now. The girl herself is not very satisfied with this state of affairs. She realizes that everyone has taken Elena's side, so there is no point in trying to keep it quiet. All the same, the general neglect of her forced to apologize to Elena. The girl mentioned that she behaved wrongly towards the protagonist. At the same time, she is extremely unhappy with the situation, and from nerves clenched her fist. It all notices, and Elena herself. The protagonist again arrogantly tells the girl that there is nothing wrong with her words, and she forgives her. And this time, it obviously very much annoys Lady Tennessee. But what happened next, we will learn in the next part of the retelling of this manga. Dear friends, and if you liked this video and you want to see the continuation of this beautiful manga to see with whom Elena will build her relationship, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to click on the bell and put a like under this video. And if you want the second part, then be sure to write in the comments about it. And I remind you that the second part will be released when this video will gain 5.000 likes or 30.000 views. And the title of this manga, That Wicked Woman's Life, I'll live it.